Hey everyone, so today working on getting this final drive apart on this high crop. You can see I unbolted the final drives here. Got the one off. So this is your, I guess I'll show you on this one here since it's hanging nicely. Just came off, so this is your shaft. That's coming from your differential. This is your, basically your, well, you got your brake pads there, your brake disc, and then there's another piece here. And then, yeah, so I'm glad I read the manual. I'm not sure what difference it makes. I would have unbolted here first. That would have been a lot easier, I think, for me, and take this off, but the manual said to take this off first, so really awkward. But I mean, it's awkward because I don't have it attached to the whole tractor, and you're not just taking this piece off. Yeah, I got that off. This is just a note for myself. This piece was at the top left there. On the other side, there were two bolts that were like a quarter or half inch longer. I think it was the ones on the bottom. Not sure why. Might figure that out later. Yeah, so one thing that's interesting, I'll have to look to see if it dropped out. There's an alignment pin here. There's a hole for an alignment pin there, but a hole for an alignment pin there. There's no alignment pin. That's interesting. All right, well, we'll start taking these bad boys apart. The manual says take off these big nuts. You take out these bolts, and then these become pusher bolts. So you get some longer bolts and screw that in, take it apart. All right, so we got this piece out from there. Again, half of this is for myself. This bolt here, because of the clearance, I guess, on it, is an actual bolt, while the others are studs. You got two alignment pins. And yeah, I just used two bolts through, you know, I took this bolt out, put other bolts in, and I just pushed it off, and you can see you're quite a bit of engagement here that you got to push off, but it makes sense. I mean, that final drive housing sits on here, and that's taking a lot of moment from that wheel, that bending moment. So got to have good tight engagement there. So the bearing, everything looks really good here. I'll be honest with you, I debated not even taking that one apart, but I guess I will, in order to maybe put a new gasket in there. But I don't think I have any reason to take this apart anymore. The bearing in here, just a little surface rust on the ring here, but otherwise it looks good. Gears, just a little surface rust. I'm really pleased with that. So then I can see the gear inside of here. We'll get a better look at that when I take this bottom piece off later, but I'm gonna finish up for the night. All right, so in order to get this differential out, we got to take a little bit more out here. At least it's in the, may not actually have to remove it, but it's part of the whole process anyway. So I'm going to remove the toe disconnect lever here. So on this side is part of a shaft. On this side is supposed to be the lever, but the lever wasn't even on it when I got it, so you can see that piece comes off there. And then this shaft comes out this side. See, there's a little ring there. And then I assume this, yeah, just pulls out. So there's our shaft. We can remove, I think, the fork, maybe. Looks like I may need to remove the bolt on here or run it in. Then I can remove the collar behind here. So give me a moment. Well, maybe I'm not reading the instructions right. I don't know, but I'm going to take the parking pawl off, or at least the handle off over here. So they didn't have an actual cable on this. I just had a wire to pull it. So I'm gonna set that aside for the moment and know that that goes out that way, so this has to come out first, but I can't seem to get this piece out. I don't know, let's try again. Well, I don't know how. I guess a little prying with the pry bar. Got that piece out finally. I don't know, so we'll put that in so we don't lose that. Well, this is our pawl. And this guide can come out. And let's see here, I'll try and keep that with that. Then, what do you think? I think we're going to replace that bearing. I knew that, but then we can get this gear out. Look at that gear. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad. It looks mostly surface. So we might be able to clean that up. Still use that. Alright, so I'm going to put this whole assembly back together. That way I can remember. I mean, I got the video thankfully, but I can remember how it went. And yeah, I think next is the parking pawl. Alright, so one thing I find interesting, and it was really throwing me for a loop. So here's our park pawl. Here's the shaft. There's supposed to be a snap ring on this backside. At least the manual says that. The parts manual says it. I don't have a shaft. I don't have a snap ring on the backside. So there's nothing really other than what's here in the transmission, you know, preventing this from going out. So even this isn't like your conventional snap ring. I'm a little perplexed by that one, to be honest with you. And then we can take, I honestly don't even know that I need to take this out. In fact, I'm just going to leave that in there. One less part that I have floating around. And we'll put this together for now. And now we need to, I think we can take this gear out in here. Yeah, I think we'll get this gear out in here in a moment. Alright, so I'll try and show this as best I can. And on the back side of this shaft here was this castle nut with a cotter pin. Thank goodness that cotter pin came out easily because it was facing the wrong way and the shaft isn't spinning. So we got to pull this shaft out. And the manual does note that there is a thread here. Sorry. There's a thread here to assist in pulling that out. Alright, so I had to do all kinds of fun things. I ended up using this thread because I started tapping on the other end and started boogering up the thread on the other end. I wasn't using the nut on it, just dumb, and then I dropped the nut down at the bottom. So anyway, I made up a jerry rig puller here, started pulling this out. One more thing to make things fun and exciting, you've got a snap ring holding that bearing in, so don't forget that snap ring. And so this shaft comes out, and I kind of knew that, that bearing is really tough, really tough. And what I'm curious to see is after we get this gear out, I don't know, we'll see if that gear's salvageable or not in the end. Curious to see. Dang, we're still locked up here. So yeah, this is where something either in this shaft here is locked up, or or in the actual differential. So I gotta go home for now, and we'll just start working on this another day and see where this gets us. Trying to just, like I said, trying to figure out where this is locked up. So, all right, so the next thing that it said to do, and I'd love to say not much time has passed, but this has been a seriously frustrating endeavor. So on this load control here, there's these caps on the end. Now, mine had a bolt underneath down here. Here's a little bolt that was holding that cap in. You can see it on the bottom there, and that's what aligns that also. Getting this out was a complete nightmare. I took the one out on the right side. I don't even know what to tell you. If any of you have a better way of doing it than me, let me know. I just took my basically chisel screwdriver, and there's a groove in here. You can't really see it on this one. Let me see, what did I do with it? And here it is. So here's the groove on it. And I just kind of use that to keep working it out. After a lot of pounding and chiseling and everything, it finally came out. From the other side, I started driving out this shaft. You're supposed to use like a brass or aluminum or something soft. We'll look at this to see if it's salvageable. I've read they have a kit and they give you all new seals in here. And yeah, so see what I can do. All right, so before we can kind of get into the guts of removing the actual differential here, it says to take these parts out. So it's actually a roll pin rather than a cotter pin that goes through this nut here. And we'll back off that nut and take this out. As my father-in-law says, one of those things makes you go, huh, I wonder why they put a roll pin in this thing rather than a cotter pin. I have no idea. But either way, since I didn't go in order of the manual and I took the shaft out in the bottom first, this has got play, and now hammering that out is nearly impossible. But anyway, I don't know that this really needs to come apart right now. So what I've done, you can see I got the differential chained up, and I went ahead and took these quills out here, and it, you know, all the bolts and stuff holding them. You can see this bearing has some rust on it. And we'll take out the other side and lift this thing out. All right, so we got both sides out. One thing to note, after we had gotten this left side out, I saw the square nut sitting on top, and I said, where in the world did that come from? Well, it was when we went to do the other side that I realized this top bolt, it actually, since the casting is thinner here, that square nut goes right there into that top bolt. So you have one on each side. And yeah, I forgot I got to figure out how, but before we can lift this out of here, I gotta find the bolt in here for the load control arm, take that out, and then I think, if I'm understanding correctly, everything lifts out. So I still had this PTO shaft in, and maybe you don't need to do it. Maybe I missed it in the instructions, but to make things easier, as you'll see here in a minute, I'm taking out this PTO shaft. So I got to take off this snap ring here, take this gear off, and then there's a snap ring on the back that you compress and drive this shaft out the back. So this is the snap ring I was talking about. You can see I'm driving this out the back here. So you compress this, and then that takes it out of the groove there in the rear end, and this can just slide out. So now hopefully we can get to the bolt that holds on that load control. All right, so with the 2 bolts out of the load control arm, well, you can start lifting the differential out, and then eventually once you get past that pinion gear enough, then once you get that up enough, you can pull this out. And you can see, oh, there's one still down there, but there's 2 of these caps here. So that's where you unbolt that. I honestly found, I know the manual says to go in through here. I found it easiest to go through the back end there. And you can see the other one. So, and spoiler alert for everyone is with that out, trying to get it out, we found out that this pinion shaft in here is what was seized. We freed it up and now everything is rotating, but we'll pull everything apart to inspect and see what all needs replaced. So here's that pinion shaft. I suspect it was this gear or this bearing that was seized up. It's not bad, but it's not great. Obviously, it's going to get replaced. This one is pretty bad too. Again, obviously getting replaced. So that's it. Once I had freed this up, everything rotated. So it's amazing just the way the gearing works, that was enough to hold up pushing the thing or anything else. So there she sits, all torn apart inside. Obviously need to clean this out. I'll get some new bearings and seals and everything. And we'll have to look into that differential, but everything looks good on it. Need to clean up some of the teeth a little bit, but I think it's just on the surface. And we'll start putting this thing back together. So kind of exciting. Having it all apart means you can hopefully start putting it back together. So I realized I never took some clips of taking this apart, or really hadn't taken this apart yet. So taking these axle shafts out, obviously I don't have the shaft out yet, but it seems to be pretty straightforward. So on the inside here, there was this cap, and then there was kind of a spanner nut on the outside. This tab washer here had an indent into one of those. Lock that on. Then there was this nut going to the bearing. And then to make life interesting, it's hidden right now because it got moved. Sorry about the focus there. There's a snap ring in there that I took off, and when I took it off with the pliers and the screwdriver, it snapped onto the inside where the shaft is smaller. Obviously I took the bottom cover off, so this is sitting upside down right now. Yeah, I know most of this isn't applicable to everyone, unless you have one of the like almost 1,000 40-10 and 40-20 high crops made, but kind of cool. So with that, I guess we'll wrap things up for now. I'll start ordering parts and we'll start getting this back together. It's going to take some work. Of course, things come apart a lot easier, being a loose word, or I should say it's typically faster to take things apart than putting things back together. I'll start cleaning things up, but looking forward to having this back together, kind of one piece at a time. I should have some time off the remainder of the year, so hopefully I can allot some of that for working on this tractor. Really looking forward to it and seeing what all we can get into. So catch you all later.